Hey y'all, Fred here. Thanks so much for joining me today. We're going to take a look at this Spyderco Tenacious. And yes, this is in fact a real deal Spyderco. It's kind of funny or ironic that I do have to, I guess, make that clarification on videos, but this is in fact a very real from the factory Spyderco knife. This is the Tenacious. This is an 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃, so at Christmas time, if y'all are like me, you know, everybody asks you, what do you want? And you've kind of already got everything that you might want or need. And so I'm like, well, you know what I really could use is a bunch of affordable, high-quality, budget steel knives for my cut testing. So I can really set a baseline and show people, okay, how well can an 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 steel, if it's done right, if it's done well, how can it hold up against some of these other knives, particularly the unknown steels, replica knives and whatnot? So I went out and searched for and thought, where can I get the best 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 steel knife that, you know, money can buy? And there's probably, I can't think of anything better. Maybe y'all have some suggestions, throw it down in the comments. Spyderco is known to do, even though this comes out of China, even their China factories are known to do good, high-quality heat treat on their steels, even the 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃, which is what this is. You can kind of see that right there. So there you go. That's why I asked for and got for Christmas a Spyderco Tenacious. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. And before we get started, as always, if you would, down below here, hit that subscribe notification bell. That really helps guys like us get our videos shown to more people. YouTube only tends to show videos that people are liking and giving thumbs up to. So throw me a thumbs up, subscribing, notification. That really is a big signal. So that helps us. So thanks if you do that. I really do appreciate that. Take a quick peek at the box that this thing came in. This is like so many other Spyderco boxes that we've all seen many times. This is actually a real deal sticker. So ironically, in some of the replica knives I've gotten, they throw this in there. They put one of these, but it's just a cardboard piece of paper. I spent like 10 minutes one day trying to figure out how to peel the back off it, and then before realizing, you idiot, it's not a sticker. But this is a sticker, so I'm happy about that. The Tenacious, you can see if you want, I'll hold this for a second. You can pause and feel free to read all about the Tenacious. This has been out for a good while. And anyhow, it is what it is. Typical Spyderco fare. It's what you would expect from Spyderco in a real Spyderco box. So there you go. There's the box that it came in. Let's take a quick peek at some size comps. These are always difficult to tell on videos how big they are. We'll look at the exact specs in just a minute. There's the Benchmade Crooked River, which is huge compared to just about everything else. You can see this is not much bigger, but a little bit bigger than the typical Spyderco bug out. So this is definitely what I would consider to be a great EDC size knife. Here it is compared to a PM2, which most people know and understand, as well as the Para 3. You can see it fits nicely just about right in the middle of those two knives, but much more cutting blade than the Para 3. And let's see, does it have even more cutting length? I think it does. It's even got more cutting length than a Para 2, and that's because of the lack of a forward choil, which is what you find on the Para 2s and 3s. All right, more modern knives here. We always do the 𝗧𝗵𝘁 Vision and the CJRB Pyrite Light. This is the regular size. You can see it's really, I mean, just barely in between both of those, just a hair shorter than the Vision, and I think just a hair longer than the Pyrite Light. So again, right there in that beautiful EDC medium size, not too small, not too big kind of knife. All right, let's bring up some specs down the right-hand side of the screen. As you can see in full open position, this is 7.77 inches long, which is, again, very nice. 3.39 is tip to cutting scale. 3.3 is about your cutting edge on this thing. Closed position, it's 4.4 inches, give or take. That's very nice. Under half an inch at 4.6. Feels very solid in the hand. This is a satin finish blade. Full flat grind, G10 over steel liners. Again, as I mentioned, an 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 MOV. Just a little over 4 ounces. This does have the liner lock. We'll take a closer look at that in a minute. At the moment, you can buy these for $64.50. I think that is on Amazon. And again, I got a link below if you want to check that out. This does have a really nice thin behind the edge. I mean, for a factory grind, we're talking 14 thousandths out to maybe 20 thousandths at the tip, where it gets a little bit thicker on that grind. Very thin and slicey blade. Came very sharp out of the box. All right, so let's talk about some deeper dives on this thing. So the pocket clip is standard fare for all these Spydercos, particularly the older models. This did come originally in the tip down position, so I have already moved the pocket clip from the tip down to the tip up position on here. These are not great clips, you know. They've used them forever. Certainly very easy to get in and out of your pants. Definitely not deep carry in any stretch. And it's just, you'll feel it in your hand. There are a billion aftermarket clips that you can apply on here, including a bunch of Lynch clips that are full deep carry style pocket clips. So if I was going to carry this, I definitely would very likely want to replace it with that. It's also very long, you know, over 50% of the handle didn't need to be that long. Don't know why they did that. As far as hardware goes, you've got a T8 on the pivot. It is a captive pivot, as you can see there. T6 on all the body screws and the clip screws. That's just standard fare for the older versions of the Spydercos. It is what it is. I'd love to have them all T8, but you know, that is what it is. They countersink them. That's not too bad there. You are going to need a finger bit, one of those devices that holds a bit on one side so you can use your screwdriver on the other side for these T6 body screws, because they tend to both spin freely. So just making you aware of that. That's where a good finger bit, as I've shown you on a lot of my toolkits, I show the finger bits. That's definitely something you're probably going to want on this knife as well. Stop pin is typical, no big deal there, no particular blade shouldering. It is solid, good solid lockup as always with these. You know, no right, left, up, down. There is a very slight amount of pivot lash. I mean, we're talking minuscule. I didn't think there was any, and right now, if I hold it way out at the tip and really push and pull, pushing this in and out, very minuscule. There's also a very slight amount of detent lash. Some of that is, you know, well, no, I'm going to call that just a slight amount of detent lash. This is riding on washers and not bearings. I'll tell you, the detent is quite well dialed in on this thing. I'm going to say that's an excellent detent. Very sharp and clicky on that knife. And this is riding on washers, so the ability to flip it out either thumb or reverse flip is great, because again, it's on washers, and all that is attributable to the great, excellent detent on this thing. Now, I will say you can fail it. If you push straight out with your thumb or finger, you will most likely fail it. You are not going to be able to get that around by pushing it straight out. What you do is throw this straight up. Go straight up with it, and you're gonna bang it out every time. Same thing with your finger. You're almost pulling it up like that when you open it, even though you are kind of going up at an angle. No problem at all. You can see that thing just locks, flips right out great. Standard flipper hole works great. You can do all the, you know, Spidey drops and all that fun kind of stuff. Riding on bronze phosphor washers was very stiff at first. I had to take it apart, clean everything out, re-lubricate it, get the pivot tension dialed in with the screw, and that's what brought it down to just really nice. And well, that and flipping it 100 times or so, no blade movement there, and it still flips great, nice and easy. You can actually, it will drop down to here, down to your thumb, but from that point you've got to really kind of throw it hard to get it to close. But you know, you can also slow roll it. This is one of those great candidates for slow rolling both in and out. I'll bring it there, grab that with your thumb, and bring it back down. This feels very good to slow roll with that thumb hole. That's actually almost a preferred method as well. G10 scales, they do their G10 texturing perfectly. They just have that perfect amount of grippiness, smoothness. I just like this as much as any G10 out there. Over obviously steel liners, they're not shadow boxed, they're even with the scales. Everything is perfectly chamfered and rounded. There are no sharp edges anywhere. I will call your attention to the kind of rounded butt end of this grip. That's what makes this knife even more comfortable and ergonomic in the hand. The way that rounded end just fits so beautifully in the palm of your hand, almost like a pistol grip, makes this thing really comfortable. There is some internal milling on those liners. You can see on that end, maybe if I flip it over here, both on the top and bottom, you can see there's circle hole cutouts all through those steel to help reduce the weight a little bit. And you've got your standard lanyard hole tube that comes on most all Spydercos. Good solid liner lock on this thing. You can see it's heavily cut away on the scales, so you can You have a ton of access. They've done some light jimping on the front of that. So, I mean, you really easy to get to it. I will tell you, it's quite stiff. The lock on this, the lock bar, you could certainly bend it and lighten it up. I don't think I'd want to, though, for any particular reason. You've got a great 50% lockup on the tang of the blade. And just the ease of access combined with that jimping, it's just really a well-done liner lock. It locks up solid as can be. This thing is not going to bounce out or unlock. You wouldn't expect that from a real Spyderco, and it's certainly the case here as well. No blade whack issues. Again, typical blade-shaped, leaf-shaped blade, 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃. Curious that they use white writing, and I'm wondering if y'all may know this. Do they only put white writing on the Chinese knives, or maybe it's only on the 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 knives? I don't usually see the white logo and lettering on Spydercos. Usually it's black or dark, at least. So I'm curious as to why the white. If anybody knows that, throw me down in the comments. The other thing is you can almost barely see, there is a maker's mark here. But it almost looks like it was hand scribed into the steel, just barely. There you go. If you get the light just right, I didn't even know it was there until about 2 weeks after owning this knife. I just happened to be looking at it even more closely and like, oh my God, there's a maker's mark there, although barely visible. All right, let's talk about the blade a little bit. Great thumb ramp, as all Spydercos do, because there's no forward finger choil. You're gripping it like this. You lock that thumb in there, especially if you're push cutting into things like that or poking into things. Very solid grip. You've got a nice ride up there that's going to keep your hands from sliding up on that blade. So that's good. Certainly you can pinch grip this all day long because the blade does slant down a little bit from the center line. Downward sloping blade, easier to get to do draw cuts. You could even hold it comfortably enough in the reverse grip here. That is no problem at all. So ergonomically, this thing is really good. The spine of this blade, I will note, that is very, I'm going to call it sharp. It's not sharp like it's going to cut you. I can grind that into my hand. It's not cutting you, but you could definitely use it for ferro rods, striking a ferro rod. So if you want to use this as a good camping knife, you could take it. You don't have to worry about losing an expensive knife in the woods. This thing would be excellent at striking a ferro rod with the way that sharp spine, 90 degrees. Again, no forward finger choils. That gives you the longer blade, the bronze phosphor washers, smooth action based on the washers. The blade centering came dead on. No sharpening choil. So that's standard for Spyderco knives, but I'm going to call this like a reverse anti-sharpening choil, because not only is there no choil, but the blade actually comes back out again as it gets here. They do that nice deep, almost 90 degree down grind on it so you can get to it, but it just comes right back down again. So, sharpening this is going to be a challenge, as is the case with a lot of Spydercos. You just got to take a little bit of extra care with it. I think a lot of people have taken their own tools to it and maybe cut in a little bit of a sharpening choil with some diamond files. You could file that up right there a little bit, give yourself a little bit of a choil. I just thought that was interesting. Factory sharpened was beautiful. Let's grab a sheet of paper. This thing is laser sharp right out of the box, man. From tip to stern, this is beautiful. This is a 10 on the redneck scale, which is beautiful because that's exactly what I needed for my cutting test that we're doing, right? I needed a great quality 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 blade that came sharp and well heat treated. We're going to see what an 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 can do and how well it holds up to some of the other steels that people, tend to, stick their noses up at the 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 about. So looking forward to that. That should be fun. Ergonomically, again, fits great in the hand, multiple kind of positions for pinch grips, and you could do some draw cuts with it. The jimping is good and grippy. I like that. The thumb jimping is good. I think this lock cutaway might end up getting a little sharp when it comes to the really hard push cuts on the wood, like when you're trying to feather stick or carve out big deep chunks of wood. I'm a little worried that that cutaway right there is so now thin and your fingers riding on that jimping that could potentially become a bit of a hot spot. So we'll see. And, you know, you got semi-boxy scales, so that sometimes becomes an issue with real hard push cuts, but it feels so good. And with that, again, the rounding of that end, I like it a lot. The pocket clip will almost certainly become an issue when you're doing real hard push cuts. So we'll see. We'll do all that when we get to the cut testing. In terms of negatives, again, that's it, really. Pocket clip is a little bit pokey. 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃 is not always going to be your best edge retention, but honest, y'all, it's basically the same thing as a 14C28N. So everybody says, oh, no, I want 14C on my blade, but then it's got the same edge retention. Now, it has a lot of other qualities, which may be a little better than an 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃, but in terms of just raw edge retention, it ranks the same. So we're going to see. I'm looking forward to the cut test. I think we're all going to have a little bit of fun with that. It is not very fidgety because it's on washers, but certainly is easily flipped with that perfectly dialed in detent. No good sharpening choil. That lock cutaway may get sharp, just trying to finish up my negatives, I guess, on that. Overall, I like this knife. This is a really great EDC beater knife, man. Just something you can carry. This is going to be a certainly well-treated, very well-sharpened 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 blade. It's very affordable for a Spyderco. You know, the handles, the grips, the scales, the fit, the finish on this thing, it's Spyderco level quality. So it feels good. Nice, long, sharp blade, very thin behind the edge. Going to be certainly very easy to resharpen on washers, so you don't have to worry about bearings getting gunked up if the kind of work you do. If you do take it camping and it gets out in the mud and the junk, you don't have to worry about that mud getting in the bearings because you've just got the bronze phosphor washers. This is an excellent knife. You know, I can certainly recommend it if you're looking for a good quality, well-made, affordable beater knife with, you know, a really high-quality 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 steel. I mean, that's about as good as you're going to get. This thing can take some abuse and some hard work and then sharpen back up to a really nice, crispy, sharp blade at the end of the day quite easily, probably just with a good strop. Then this is definitely a knife that you should consider. I originally got it just because I wanted a good high-quality 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 to test, but the more I've held it and carried it, the more I'm like, hey, this is actually a really good EDC-level knife. So, I mean, something to consider if that's what y'all are thinking about and you want to, you know, maybe you don't normally buy Spydercos because they're expensive. You can certainly dip your toe in the water on this one and know you're getting as good a quality 𝗧𝗲𝗃𝗃 as you're going to get anywhere. And you can wait and see how the cut tests pan out. But I'm going to tell you, I think this thing will hold its own. Anyhow, that's all for today. As always, I appreciate your time and attention. Again, I do have a link down below. It's an affiliate link. But, man, y'all, that helps me out. Every little bit helps. I got to pay for these knives. They don't send them to me for free. So every little bit helps, even if you just throw me a thumbs up and let me know I did okay. Give me some comments, some feedback. Do you have one of these? How long have you had one? How has it held up over time? I'm really curious to know. And this has been around so long. Some of y'all have to have had this knife and have some real world experience with it. Let me know what your experience was with it. Otherwise, thanks so much. I appreciate your time and we will talk to you soon. Thanks. Have a great day.